Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a very provocative headline for today's topic. Make serious money from the mistakes of the professionals. I reveal my trade secrets. It can of course look like a clickbait. When I use this very spectacular headline, it could be perceived as I just want to get more viewers to click on this video. Indeed, I have set the provocative title, but it is completely in accordance with the reality that I am about to reveal. I will soon describe in this video how I easily earned $3,000 based on my knowledge and experience, which I will soon share with you if you just stay tuned for a few more moments. By following the channel's various enlightening and informative topics on various aspects of numismatics and coin collecting, where I often do deep dives into various special areas and talk about the coins, condition, damages, minting errors and die errors, etc., how it looks and what characteristics the coin exhibit and what you should therefore be observant of. As a former university teacher, I believe that one of the most important tasks we have in life is to develop our knowledge and train ourselves in a critical thinking, self-reflection, and thus gradually build on our track record of experience. Today's episode will be about how I bought a gold ducat struck in the Swedish possession Stettin in Pomerania in 1718, where my professional colleagues, namely several leading both foreign and Swedish auction companies, made a completely incorrect assessment of the coin, and then this to the detriment of the seller and to the great pleasure of my wallet. The seller essentially lost a good deal of money when the auctioneer incorrectly described the coin as mounted, when in fact was a matter of die damage. And here it is appropriate to make a statement before I go further into this video. Buying with knowledge from other commercial players is perfectly legitimate and one of the driving forces of the old coin trade. In other words, being able to make a different assessment based on your own knowledge and experience than the other selling commercial actor is thus an important dynamic and stimulus in the coin trade. Of course, this dynamic also occurs between collectors, between dealers and collectors. In the auction company's defense, although a weak one, ducats have often been mounted and used as jewelry. However, it is careless that, as a professional coin dealer, you cannot tell the difference between a die damage and a mounted coin, where the auction companies could have done the right thing with the slightest effort. When I went to this specific auction viewing in 2018 and examined this depicted coin, which was described as having marks from mounting, I got immediately suspicious. At first glance, I immediately saw that the coin did not exhibit the characteristic appearance of a mounted ducat. The coins used as jewelry are regularly polished by their owner to achieve a fine shiny appearance like a regular jewelry. In addition, these mounted coins often receive a myriad of characteristic small nicks and marks as the coins hang and tosses around the neck. The same coin had also been described by a leading German auction company in 2008 as mounted with so-called Fassungsspor. The coin had then found its way to Sweden and was sold here for the first time in 2014 with the same description, and now finally in 2018 at the same auction company where I now sat and examined the incorrectly described coin. When I now took out my magnifying glass and examined the coin in detail, a small wolfish grin spread and I lightly licked my mouth, thinking that here they have made a mistake that I can make some serious money from. The quality of the coin was correctly stated as very fine on the obverse and very fine to extremely fine on the reverse. The coin is valued in my book, Gold Coins of Sweden, at $6,000 in very fine quality. The estimate price was set at $500. Certainly it was a low estimate, but it was estimated taking into account that the auctioneer had described the coin as mounted. After the usual bidding, however, somewhat slow in this case due to the description, I bought the coin for $2,500, including the commission. I then, after the auction, sold the coin for $6,000 and then, of course, correctly described as die damage instead of mounting. But how can I be sure that I am right and the other so-called experts are wrong? The simple answer is that I possess an information and experience advantage. I spend a large part of my time examining coins and pictures, thus developing a special sense of the actual appearance of the coins that requires a lot of practice. The Ducat 1718 on its own and without considering it in a larger context can certainly look to the untrained eye as having traces of soldering on the edge from the mounting. But if you then compare this coin with other coins struck with the same dies, which in this case are silver strikes, it is clear that these have the exact same type of damages along the edges, and the proof is thus complete. The coin has thus been struck with a die that has begun to crack at the edges, and the effect is that the damage in the die has been filled with metal from the coin flan during the striking and resulted in excess flan metal manifesting itself as raised regions along the edge of the struck coin. Many, both collectors and dealers, and especially those who bid on distance and cannot inspect the objects themselves, trusted the auctioneer's description and therefore did not see any point in making their own critical judgment nor questioning the auctioneer's description. Unfortunately, it is how it sometimes works, as extensive research in psychology shows, which you also can read about in works written on the theme The Psychology of Persuasion. In short, we trust far too much in what authorities say, and it is difficult to dare to question this. On this occasion, I personally thanked, in my head at least, the auction company's lack of knowledge, and that the other bidders did not question the auction company's description, and laughed, as is customary to joke about, all the way to the bank where I cashed in the nice profit of $3,500. Now, I will return to the actual education of the subject so that you, the viewer, can also learn how die damages look like and what causes them, so that you do not make the same mistakes as the so-called professionals, or alternatively, like me, make a good deal of money from the mistakes of the so-called professionals. In essence, knowledge is power, and with good knowledge of the subject, you thus have an advantage over those who lack this knowledge. And for those of you who are interested in learning more, stay tuned a while longer and I will walk you through the subject. So what is the die damage? Just as the name indicates, there are one or more damages to the die which have occurred during the minting process, and despite these damages, the coins or medals continues to be struck and released into the market with the scars of the damaged die. At the mint, there apparently used to be a tolerance, which by all accounts seemed to vary considerably, for how extensive the damage was accepted before completely deciding to discard the damaged die. In some cases, I really wonder what criteria have been applied when, for example, in several cases, they have released magnificent medals from the mint with terrible die cracks, especially there are such struck with dies engraved by Johann Carl Hedlinge for Ulrika Eleonora's coronation in 1719, where the crack goes over the entire portrait on the medal's obverse and was evidently struck with a completely cracked die. Personally, I would go insane if I were the customer and received such a magnificent medal delivered struck with cracked dies and immediately fired the mint master. One can really wonder what conditions prevailed when, despite the heavily desecrated, for the purpose, Medal of Splendor, it was still issued and awarded. For the Queen, it must have been a downright embarrassing story to have her portrait disfigured in this way. Today, it is difficult to obtain any reliable information about the underlying causes, and we can only study the evidence in the form of the disfigured metals and speculate on the matter. But what is this due to? The metal in the engraved and hardened die is thus exposed to great stress during the repeated striking, and the metal is exposed to stress, and where the material in the die is gradually fatigued, which can cause cracks and damage of various kinds. When studying the extent of different types of damage to the die, for example, die cracks appear to be overrepresented on the large metal dies, which are subjected to tremendous stress and rather fail completely than other types of damage that occur on the smaller coin dies, where lumps are more frequent. The damages can, as I have just stated and illustrated, be mainly divided into die cracks and die lumps. In the first case, the entire die has completely or partially cracked into one or more parts, and the cracks are filled at the moment of striking with metal from the flan and manifests itself as raised ridges on the finished struck coin or medal. In the case of die lumps, there are smaller or larger chips that have come loose in the die, and these too are filled with flan metal during the striking and manifests itself as raised parts, so-called lumps, which can have more or less irregular shape and size. And, as in the case of the ducat, it is common for the die to be damaged at the edges and give an impression of lumps which, at first glance, could possibly be perceived as soldering traces, and they could also be perceived as edge damages. Both the illustrated 2-shilling banco and the 1/16 riksdaler have the die damages at the edge. An important difference in how to distinguish die damages that is suspiciously positioned and can obviously be mistaken for mounting damage is above all the characteristics of the coin surface, but of course, even with more experience, you can also see what the die damage itself looks like. In addition, if the same type of damage is found on several coins of the same type and year, as in the case of the ducat and its off-strike in silver, you can completely rule out that it's damage from mounting and thus buy the coin with the confidence that you have made a good deal. For those of you who want to dive further into the subject, I can give you the good news of my forthcoming book, the Big Grading Book for Coins of Sweden, which covers the entire coin history and all its aspects with regarding to the minting process, the wear and damage of the dies and coins, and other aspects of the coins. Everything will be richly illustrated in color with enlargements and detailed images with explanatory texts. In addition, a large part of the book will concern grading guides where a number of coin types are illustrated in all grades of the quality scale, with high-resolution enlarged color images and with accompanying explanatory texts. I hope you find this video interesting, and to help others with a historical and/or numismatic interest watch this video, please like, share, comment and subscribe. It is free to subscribe and you don't commit to anything, nor will you receive any unwanted emails or offers from me, and you can, whenever you want, end your subscription. By subscribing, liking and sharing, you help YouTube's and Google's algorithms to rank up this video and thus make it easier for others with a similar interest to view this video. Also, make sure to hit the notification bell to get notified when I publish new video on YouTube. Thank you for watching.